PG&E's monopoly territory is home to 17 million people. It's bigger than most states.
Families already struggle to pay their bills.
Some of the highest rates for power in the nation.
Committing crimes. PG&E was convicted of 91 felonies.
Really? I mean, what's next? What are we gonna do?
Only Greybeard can save us.
Once again, the man named Greybeard has saved the world.
Solar power is our only.
Welcome to the channel. This is Greybeard Talks Solar. So happy that you're here. And if you like the content that we're sharing, please follow, like, and subscribe the channel. We'd very much appreciate it. That's how we grow our following. And today's show is going to be a great one, I think. It's all about the money, all about the return. How long, hey, Greybeard, how long does it take to get my money back if I buy solar? You know, when do I break even? When do I get a positive return? You know, that's going to be the question that we're answering for the audience today. As a precursor, for those of you that may not be aware or don't recall, my background is I was a 22-year fiduciary financial advisor. Ended up selling that practice in 2017, and ultimately over 3-4 years after flipping some houses, stuff like that in Sacramento, found my way into solar, and now currently a solar broker representing about 11 different installers throughout California predominantly, helping homeowners understand, become more solar wise, and today's show is definitely going to be efforts in that direction. So as a former fiduciary financial advisor, I totally understand the question. How long does it take to get to a positive return if you make an investment in solar? And I think the answer to that question depends substantially on the method that you choose to move forward with solar. Examples would be, are you paying cash, just writing a check for it? If you're financing a system, are you looking at a power purchase program? So I'm going to jump into all of those, kind of break that apart, dissect it, give you some general information that hopefully will help you to come to a conclusion as to whether or not you want to investigate this further. So first things first, positive return, right? So anytime you have money that you could have kept, spent, enjoyed, had fun with, invested, but instead you take that capital and you deploy it into an asset. You know, for in this example, it's solar. Whenever you make an investment decision, the first thing that you want to understand is how much risk to principal do you have? Are you going to have a cost recovery? Are you going to lose the money? Are you going to lose the investment? Secondary concern is how long until you get to a positive return, because it's all about the positive return, right? So when it comes to the solar equation, let's talk first and foremost about the easiest, most obvious answer, and that would be somebody wanting to explore paying cash for a solar system. So I've gone public many, many different times and said through our vetted resources, okay, so I've gone through about 30 different solar installers trying to find 11 good ones. And, you know, cheaper isn't always better. Better isn't always cheaper. I wasn't, you know, the goal was not to find the cheapest installers, because if you know anything about solar, effectively their margins are really, really small. And the cheaper the margin, the more precarious the condition of the financial company, right? Or of the company financially. So effectively though, we found 11 really good, very fair priced, quality installers that we refer to for our clients that reach out to us based on the marketing that we do, both with this channel and both with my, I'm on 7 different stations throughout California on public radio. So when it comes to our installers, I found companies that I feel like have very, very fair pricing, right? So effectively the best way I can answer, hey, Greybeard, you know, when do I start making money? When do I get my money back if I write a check? You know, the best way to answer that question is with solar only. I'll talk about batteries in just a second. But with solar only, and including the 30% federal income tax credit benefit that's available for solar today, we are really, really good. And this is for a roof-mounted system. I'll talk about ground mounts in just a second, but let's stay on the subject of a roof-mounted system. So assuming that you've got some sort of decent southern exposure. Now, it doesn't have to be full southern exposure. So the difference between southern exposure and versus an east-west, let's say the rectangle, say your house is a rectangle, the ridge line of the roof runs more north-south, so you've got more of an east-west exposure, so you can either put panels on the east or west side. The difference between an east-west exposure versus a southern exposure is about maybe 7%, 8%. So it's not a huge difference, but let's just qualify the answer. So let's assume you got a southern exposure. It's a roof-mounted system, comp shingle, nothing fancy in terms of your roof structure or type. We're not talking about stone-coated metal or anything like that. But with a roof-mounted system, with our vetted installers, we are really, really good at seeing a full cost recovery in mitigated utility expense from that solar purchase, usually within 5 to 7 years, I would say. That's a really, really good time frame to expect that with the amount of energy that you don't have to buy from the utility and the expense associated with that energy having been bought by the utility, that's the point at which, based on how much money you had to write the check for, that's when you get your full cost recovery. And again, that is including the 30% federal income tax credit. Now, that income tax credit is meaningful, and it's an extremely valuable component of that full cost recovery. So point of clarification here for those in the audience that maybe can't benefit from a tax credit. So in other words, you got to have a tax liability to benefit from the credit. It's not a rebate. Okay. So when somebody has a rebate on something that they purchase, every purchaser gets money back. It's a rebate. It's a cost reduction. A tax credit, not everyone can benefit from because you have to have a tax liability or owed money to the IRS in order for you to benefit from a tax credit. So for example, my mom, before she passed away, she had 90% of her income was Social Security income. So majority of that was untaxed. So she really didn't have a large tax burden. So a tax credit of thousands of dollars wouldn't have really been beneficial to her because she had no real good way to harvest it because she didn't really have a meaningful liability. So just keep that into your perspective and understanding of this cost recovery. So assuming that you can benefit from the full tax credit, think of it this way: writing a check for solar, 5 to 7 years, really, really good time frame for a roof-mounted system. Ground mounts, just as a point of clarification, ground mounts are more expensive than roof-mounted systems, and I'll do a show on this at some point in the future. But the biggest reason why is that with ground-mounted system, you've got to do 3 things that you never ever have to do on a roof. Number 1, trenching. I don't have to trench a roof, right? But with ground-mounted systems, you got to go 2 feet down, usually about 6 inches wide. The conduit and the electrical wire cannot be closer than 18 inches to the surface of the ground. So that's why you got to go down a couple of feet. And the trenching equipment, the labor involved, the wire, the conduit, all of that is obviously a lot more expensive than a roof-mounted system. Number 2, with ground-mounted systems, you have to have galvanized steel racking, tubular racking, and that's what holds the panels in place. And usually on a roof, it's aluminum racking that holds the panels in place on a roof. So obviously steel right now in this inflationary environment that we're in is more expensive than aluminum. So that's another cost contributor to why ground mounts are more expensive. And then lastly, ground mounts, you either have to steel auger in the corners to hold it in place for wind shear and bracing and or concrete, one of the two. And obviously neither of those 2 things I've got to do on a roof. So ground mounted systems, I would say, are going to add at least a year or 2 to that payback, parameter that I gave, 5 to 7 years. Ground mounted systems maybe go 6 to 9 years as an example of full cost recovery and mitigated utility expense. Now, let me come on to the subject of batteries just for a second. That 5 to 7 years or 6 to 9 years, depending on roof or ground mount, that's for solar only. That doesn't include battery storage. And the reason I make that distinction is that batteries do not make energy. They don't create energy. Solar panels make energy. Batteries store energy. And for a cost recovery, batteries are almost like driving in a boat and having an anchor dragging 20 feet below you. It hinders the payback because batteries store energy. Their primary purpose isn't to make energy. And so as a result of that, I like to say that batteries add at least, a year or 2 to that equation, depending on your utility, depending on the jurisdiction that you're in, et cetera, at least a year or 2 to that cost recovery. So think of it this way. If you're going to write a check for solar and then you factor in battery storage, depending on the number of batteries, et cetera, think of it this way, probably realistically 8 to 10 years. That's probably the most common occurrence of true earned capital back from the investment in solar. And then at that particular juncture, as long as that solar system is producing energy and you're not consuming more energy than it's producing, then all of the rest is profit or extra or return, right? So if you've gotten all your money back, then every single year after that, you're making money on your money. So here's an important consideration if you're gonna write a check for solar. I think you realistically have to have at least a 15 to 20 year time horizon in mind that you're going to stay in that house if you're going to write a check for solar. My logic is if it takes 8 to 10 years for you to get your money back, you need the extra 5 or 10 years on top of that to make money on the money. So getting your money back is criteria number one, right? So criteria number two is making money on the money. So that's why you want to have that extra time component, that extra 5, 10 years at least to realize the fruit of your decision, to realize the fruit of the investment in the asset that is solar that's going to help you mitigate this cost. I think you need to have at least that 15, 20 year plus time horizon if you're going to make cash pencil substantially for you and benefit you in the way that most people that are watching this video would want it to. All right, so let's pivot off that just for a second and let's talk financing. In solar, the financing, obviously in this higher interest rate environment, isn't awesome. I don't think there's any financing out there right now that's terribly awesome, right? So with financing, the situation is a little bit more unclear, or let's say muted, okay? Because if you're making a payment on a solar system, obviously you're paying interest for somebody else fronting the money to finance the system. Right now, solar enjoys 100% financing, 100% financing of the permits, 100% financing of the inspection fees, 100% financing of the equipment, the labor, all that stuff. So, and the reason that solar financing is more expensive than traditional finance assets, like cars or houses, is because the moment a finance company lends money on your solar system, they're underwater because they'll never get back labor, they'll never get back permitting, they'll never get back inspection fees. When that money is spent for those items, it's permanently gone. There's no cost recovery. There's no car to take back. There's no house to take back. I mean, they've got this used solar equipment in essence that they're UC1 filing. There's not a lien on your home. It's a UC1 filing that allows them to take the equipment back should you not pay them. But then you have the question of what is somebody's used solar equipment really worth? Out there in the YouTube world, if you're watching this video, would you pay a premium? Would you pay something close to the same amount for someone's used equipment as you're buying new equipment? Or would you have to have a substantial discount on that used equipment to make you want to buy it, right? So that's the challenge with financing. But with financing, depending on the term of time, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, and depending on the rate, really it becomes more of a question of cash flow. If you can finance a system for less than what your average monthly cost is to buy the power from your utility, PG&E, Edison, San Diego Gas and Electric, if let's say your average monthly cost of electricity is $400, and you can finance a solar system right now, and your payment on that solar system all in with financing, interest, et cetera, is $350, then obviously you're saving $50 a month. Your positive return begins almost immediately because you're not having to come up with the capital. You didn't have to deploy any of your resources. And as a result of that, you're already saving money because you're buying this system for less than what the average monthly cost of your normal electricity would be without solar. The last option I want to tell you about, which is probably the best one that I've seen right now in terms of how long it takes for you to get a positive return on your investment, is the concept of right now power purchase programs. So a power purchase program is basically a program where a third-party company will pay for and have installed a PV photovoltaic solar system for you at zero out-of-pocket cost to you. So you don't have to come up with a deposit. You don't have to come up with the money for permitting. You don't have to come up with money for inspections, nothing for labor, nothing for the equipment, not $1 from you. And the idea behind these programs is that this third party, whatever company you want to choose, we deal with several, but this third party will make a solar power plant for your home, give you 2 to 4 batteries, depending on your usage and consumption, to go along with it. And they'll do all of that without any out-of-pocket monies from you. And it's not a loan. It's not a traditional lease. You don't have a financial burden on your credit report. All you're doing is agreeing to buy power for less than what the utility normally charges you for their power. So these programs have, in my opinion, the fastest cost recovery of any program right now because it doesn't require any of your capital. And usually a lot of our clients right now are seeing their utility bill cut in half the month after this thing goes live. So imagine it this way. If, let's say, your average monthly cost on electricity is $400 a month and you go the way of a power purchase program and you can buy energy from a solar system that's at your property, roof mounted or ground mounted, for less than it costs you to purchase energy from the utility, and that savings is meaningful and it cuts your utility bill in half, then you have a positive return the month after the system went live. Literally, you're positive because you don't have any of your capital involved. So any savings is gain. Any savings is return. That's the first example of a positive return on your investment. I would also argue, think about it this way, and this is probably just because of my financial background, the way my mind works, but I would argue for some of you to consider, if you're astute at managing your finances and managing investments, and let's say you've got some really good performing investments in your portfolio. Let's take, for example, AI stocks. I think AI and everything that it involves is going to really disrupt so many different industries. I think it's probably one of the best areas of growth that you could look to right now, bar none. So let's say you have the opportunity to pay cash for a system and you choose not to, and instead you take the money that you would have spent on solar and you put it someplace to work for you in an investment. And that investment over the next 10, 15 years has the chance to grow, compound, mature, become much more significant in terms of its value and size than what you started with originally. And meanwhile, you move forward with the power purchase program where the month after the system's installed, it actually has a positive net gain for you in terms of savings, that you can take that savings and add it to the kitty of the, whatever the AI stocks or whatever investment you have that you think is real confident that you're going to have a positive return on. Then I think that you'd be far better off, looking out 15, 20 years than if you had just written a check for the system, right? So that's an important distinction, just something to throw out there for you to consider. But in my mind, if you are really good with investments, good at taking risk, measured risk, I would say that, and are confident that you could actually place that money someplace where it might make you a lot more than maybe paying cash for solar, even if you could get to a 5, 7, 10-year cost recovery, maybe isn't the best strategy for you, all encompassed, with all your other financial assets and decision-making, things like that. But that's just food for thought. So to wrap it up, think of it this way. If you want to pay cash for a system, solar only, 5 to 7 years, roof mounted, ground mount, you're going to add another year or two to that because they're more expensive. Add batteries, you're going to have another year or two to that as well. That's including the tax credit. On the financing side, you just got to create a lower payment with financing than what you're actually spending with the utility, and you'll have a positive return there. And the cheapest monthly payment that we've seen of any way to go solar other than paying cash is the power purchase programs. And that has a super quick cost recovery because literally you can start to make a positive return on your investment the month after the system goes live because it didn't require any of your capital and it's already beginning to save you money. Now, one point, some people, hey, Greybeard, I don't understand that power purchase. How can it, already start to save you money? How is it cheaper, Think of it this way. I'll take PG&E just as an example. If you look at your PG&E bill, PG&E has two major charges for electricity for you. They have the generation charge, what it costs to actually make the electricity, and then they have the delivery charge, what they charge you to get it to your house from wherever the electricity was made. Think of that as the transportation or delivery cost of the energy to get to your property, right? And their lines, their railways. So if your PG&E bill, let's say, for example, is $200, it's very common that the delivery charge would be an additional $400. It's usually twice as expensive to get the energy to you at your house as what it costs to actually make the energy wherever they make it, okay? That's the challenge of getting energy from PG&E. Now, with solar, the energy is made at your house. There is no delivery charge. There is no delivery charge that's twice as expensive as what it costs to make the electricity. Really, there's only the make the electricity charge, and it's being made from the sun. So effectively, all you're really paying for is the cost recovery of the company that actually put the system in at your house at no out-of-pocket cost to you. You're paying them a premium. And these contracts, these agreements, this power purchase agreements, many of them I've analyzed. It's going to take the company that made the system for you, it's going to take them at least 15 or 20 years to get their money back. I would never, ever want to wait 15 to 20 years just to get my money back on any investment. And this is, again, coming from a 22-year former financial advisor. So if you can use other people's money, use their capital to save you money today, not deploy yours, take the money you would have spent on solar, put it someplace where it's going to make you a lot more than maybe solar would have made you, then take the savings from the power purchase program and add it on top of that kitty, fast forward 10, 15, 20 years, and you're going to pat yourself on the back for, making probably a really, really wise, solar-wise decision. So one last time, if this has been good information for you, please like and subscribe to the channel. I want to thank you so much for watching. Thank you for watching the Greybeard Talks Solar channel. And stay tuned for more content just like this. We've got a lot of ideas of stuff that we're going to share with you, a little peek behind the solar window. And so hopefully you'll stay with us to grab that extra information as it's delivered. So thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to SolarWise, Greybeard Talks Solar. Please visit our website, solarwiseco.com, to learn more. And we will see you next time on SolarWise.